All right, let's talk about the 6 videos that every real estate business or real estate team absolutely needs in their content strategy. See, the whole purpose of this is a lot of people get stuck in this process where they're always creating videos about the market, or maybe creating these videos of content that's not evergreen or doesn't actually create sales or actually convert people or whatever. And the thing is, if you're going to spend time doing video, first of all, I 100% agree that having the community videos, other attraction-based videos are important because they get the attention and the awareness of people. So obviously, having those community videos or whatever is super important to have because that's what most people enjoy watching. But if you're not creating video content that's evergreen or stuff that you can continually use or stuff that actually creates tangible results in business as well, then you're just on this constant churn of content. And a lot of the times there's questions that clients ask you that they ask you repeatedly over and over and over, and you send an email to them or you text. What if you just sent a video answering that question and you didn't have to spend time doing it because you already have the video created? So that's just an example. But there's 6 videos that as a real estate business you absolutely need to create. And the first is your brand story, your why. And while this isn't the most important video, at some point this is something you need. And the reason why is you need a way for people to connect with you. And what better way to do that through your brand story? And going through this process allows you for people to relate with you and to connect with you. And that's the most important thing, is connection and having someone who relates with you, who is relevant to you. So, because while one of the buckets that I talk about in content is authenticity and creating content around having this shared belief or connecting with people with shared beliefs and interests, you can sprinkle that stuff in with a ton of other content. For example, like Gary Vee does when he talks about the Jets or wine or the cards or garage sailing and stuff like that. But having a story, for example, you take someone who's up on stage like Gary Vee. What does he spend the first 5 minutes doing? The first 5% of his talks, he talks about his story. And that's the thing, is people connect with story, and people listen better when they have context. When you have context, that's when the content actually resonates with people. And I talk about that as well in another video. But that's why having your story and talking about your story consistently is important. That's why it's one of a very integral piece of content to have. Now, the second piece of content that you need is your unique process or your unique method, just like the unique sellable process. What's your USP, your unique sellable point? What makes you different than everyone else? Because there's tons of different agents. Every person knows 5 agents. I could name off 10. I'm sure someone who's older than me could name off a lot more. And the thing is if you're no different than anyone else, then why should they use you besides maybe liking you? Now, if you have a process that helps people in a unique way, then that is something that differentiates you. And what that kind of looks like in the world is when, for example, you have a marketing message and you have an offer. So you have a type of person you want to attract, the type of person you want to work with, and the ideal client. And I talk about that in another video, but that ideal client, when you have a process that is tailored, that is proven, that is geared towards them, they're going to connect to it a lot easier. So let's say you work a lot with first-time homebuyers and you have a process to help first-time homebuyers overcome the uncertainty, move through their fears and doubts of buying a home, and that's really tailored to their problems, and you're able to speak to that with your process. And it's a process that people can connect to, because people can connect to a third party a lot easier than a person. And then on top of that, that presents authority, because you now say you have a proven process that's worked for other people just like them. And that is how you build authority, is having that proven process. So that's why having a video around that is huge. And you explaining that process, even just an overview of it, allows people to understand and grasp it and be like, hey, this person understands me. This person understands what I'm going through. And they have a process, a proven process that's different than everyone else's, that helps me achieve what I want. That's why it's the number 2 most important video. Now, number 3 is, and Marcus Sheridan talks about this all the time, is that 80%. What is 80% of the stuff that clients ask you all the time that you could just answer on video? What if you could shorten the sales curve, shorten the sales cycle, the marketing cycle, because you've answered all their questions about the community, about buying, about selling, about investing, whatever. Again, this goes back to who do you want to attract. Knowing who you want to attract allows you to know what 80% of the videos you want to create. But also just listening to your clients. What questions did they ask you? What comments did they leave you? What questions they ask in email, in person? What are their questions, their fears, their doubts, their concerns, their problems, their pains? What are their goals? What are they looking for? All of these questions. That's why understanding your client on a really deep level, who do you want to serve, makes the content a lot easier, because you can just answer their questions in video and then they connect with you on a deeper level. And that's the 30%. And the thing about this is where the value comes into play. This is the second bucket that I talk about. There's authenticity, the value, and authority. So the first one, when I was talking about your why, your brand story, that's like your authenticity bucket. Now, having unique sellable process, that's like your authority bucket. Now, this, you're answering their questions, their fears, their doubts. This is the value bucket. Now, when you can do this in a way that shifts their belief, that changes the way they think about something, that's when you create not just how-to content or questions, but you really imprint yourself in the brain. And I talk about this in another video, but basically it's like when someone says, so every realtor talks about price and why price is such a huge deal. But what if I told you that price is just one slice of the pie, that the whole entire pie is actually how you position the home in the market? See, people don't buy a home off price. They buy a home off emotion. And you know that as a realtor. And because it's off emotion, and because it's based off of comparing the home with the neighborhood or the community or other communities that are similar. And for example, I'll get back to that in a second, but it's why, for example, you pay $5 at Starbucks for what would cost you $1 at home. Positioning. It's the same thing with houses. Now, does price matter? Sure. But how the home compares to other homes in the market, where it's positioned, the price, how it looks, how it's packaged, all this stuff, how it's marketed, all that puts up into the positioning. So it's not just price, it's all of these pieces. See, that's a how-to question to answer, talking about pricing, but I shifted the belief. Now, when you can do content like that, that is a real game changer. That's the third type of video that every business needs. Now, fourth, case studies. This is where you walk them through the consumer journey and you're really showing what you do for clients. This is huge. If you can create a case study, for example, I did this with a client and we created this case study of how we sold the home and how he sold the home in less than 6 days. And we walked through his entire process of how it was prepared, even before that, the very first meeting, how the home was prepared, all the stuff, the process that they went through, actually showing how they marketed it, and then talking about it all the way to close. And we used a client as a case study, and we had all the pieces from the beginning to end, and we created this 5-minute case study video that is now evergreen. Before every listing presentation, they can send this case study, and it's proof of the process. It's proof of the results of actually walking through it. And on top of it, we go through the consumer journey. We talk about some of the pains, the problems, and the goals. So you also touch on the emotion. So you don't just touch on the logic with the case study, but you touch on the emotion and you walk them through the process, and you're just creating social proof. And this goes back to the authority bucket. And if you can create this, this is huge. Now that's coming from one angle. Now the fifth video is coming from the other angle. This is coming directly from the mouth of the client. This is success stories. And of course you could write about it, you can have testimonials, and those are fine. But if you have a client testimonial and video, a success story of them telling about their experience, and they walk through this consumer journey, they're the one speaking in their own language about the fears, the questions, the doubts, the concerns that they had, what they were looking to get. And they walk you through this whole process and how you helped them overcome that, and how your process helped them overcome their problems and help them achieve the goal that they want. And there's a video of the client talking about that, not you, then that's another level, because now it's not just coming from someone who wants to sell to you, it's coming from an actual client, it's coming from a third party, it's coming from someone who's actually been through the process, and they're speaking using the language that's not speaking at the client, it's speaking with the client. So having those videos are huge. That's why it's number 5 video that you need in your video content strategy. Now number 6 is this is a little bit different. This is not a video you use all the time. These are videos that you kind of store up. There's stuff that go on landing pages or sales pages, or they go on your selling page or your buyer page, or you send in an email or whatever. These are the ask videos, the stuff that you are getting them to take action. It's where you're really talking about your credibility, but then you're talking about their questions, their doubts, their pains, their problems, how you overcome that, and then you overcome their objections and really talk about what they're looking for to move them into action. So these videos aren't going up on social media. They're maybe set up on a retargeting campaign, and that's where you can get a lot more technical to only retarget certain people, certain pages at certain times, whatever. But sending these videos through email, through Messenger, through text, retargeting campaigns, putting them in front of the right people at the right time on the right page, then you could help move them to action, because you're overcoming their objections, their questions, their fears, their doubts, their uncertainty, and you're moving them to the next action. That's why having those stored up are good, because you don't use them all the time, but when you need them, it can help people get over the curve. Because when people are moving from something, they're moving from a personal reason, and it's a very deep personal reason, and it's based off emotion. So the same reason that the person got on the fence of moving is the same way you kind of get them off the fence and to actually move them into action. So, for example, some people who's a first-time home buyer, the reason they want to move is they want to stop paying for rent. They want their own space. They don't want to live in an apartment. They want to have their own space. They want to start building wealth, stop paying payments, all this stuff. And that same reason that got them to want to move in the first place is the same reason that gets them to move, period. But when you can speak to that and speak with them on that, when you know that, when you know their why, their pains, all that, and you can create a video around that, and you can help move them to action, and you can give it to the right people at the right time, so it's the right message at the right time, then you can help move them to action. That's why that's the 6th video that every real estate business needs. Now, again, like I said, having the awareness videos, the stuff that gets their attention, the community stuff, that's huge, because that's how you stay in front of people. That's how you keep their attention. But building up this evergreen content bank of videos that you can use, that is your brand story, your why, explaining who you are, allowing them to connect with your story, and then your process, your unique sellable process that can connect with where they are to where they want to go, and it shows them the way. It's the bridge. It shows them that there's a solution, that there's a way to get what they want, and you have the unique process. And then you answer their questions, and you don't just answer their questions in how-to videos, but you shift their beliefs. You change the way they think about it, and you give all this value. And then you have case studies, social proof, that shows what you walking through an actual client through the customer journey. That is social proof of what you do for the client. And then you have success stories coming from the mouth of the actual client, so that it's a third party who's giving you authority and social proof. And then you have these selling videos that help move them to action. You have this evergreen content that can go with your other attention grabbing awareness content, your community, your listing videos, all this stuff. But that's actually going to help drive the business as well. So I hope that was helpful. And it may have been a long video, me going over all of those, but I hope this provides some insight on creating evergreen content that you can actually reuse. And let me know if you have any questions on this, and let me know which video are you going to create next. What's the one out of those 6 that you absolutely, I'm like, hey, this is what I need to start making. Let me know below, and hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.